It's only been a day since I touched on influencers and why you need to take their opinions with a grain of salt and market manipulation, all that sort of stuff. And now today, Sports Card Investor comes out and says this. Crazy. Let's get into it. Hey everyone, Dan the Card Man back again. Welcome to another weekly news video. Very glad to have you here. So to give you some context, if you're new to the channel or you're a recent subscriber, what these videos are is I'll touch on some of the good and bad that have happened within the hobby, the trading card hobby, over the last week or so. Give my thoughts on those and hopefully bring some things front of mind to your attention that you maybe haven't seen before or weren't aware of, just to basically uplift the knowledge of everyone within the hobby. I'm here to give shout outs as well, so if something good happens, I'll also call that out. Now, as I touch on in that mini intro, there's a few things in here too, the last 2 points of this video that relate to my video that I released the other day regarding influencers and sort of the impact they're having on the hobby, and some strange comments from Sports Card Investor, which I'll get to in a second. Before we get into that, we'll touch on something that really interesting that sort of popped up into my feed. I saw it through Golden Auctions, who basically reshared it from Ripposaurus, and basically there was this person, they did a break and they got 3 KABOOMs in the one Crown Royale box. Now, these are meant to be a case hit, obviously, and a bit crazy, right? Because it's obviously a printing error. They've accidentally put 3 hits into the one pack that should have gone into maybe 3 separate cases. Now, a few of you might say, okay, Daniel, well, this is something that's always been around, which is fair. And this has always been an error with respect to trading cards over the last 30, 40 years, right? Sometimes when they're sorting the packs, these kinds of mistakes do occur. The reason why this is a little bit annoying in the modern day, and I've touched on this in recent videos, is that it's so expensive now to buy these boxes, right? They're charging so much more and they're printing so much more. So the money they're generating as a manufacturer is really high. Now, yes, these manufacturers are not getting the full dollar that these boxes are selling for, right? Because the markup occurs at retail and because the market's hot. But they need to be doing better. So when they're charging this kind of money, when they're printing the volumes they're printing, this kind of stuff is unacceptable. You would think, and like I touched on with the graders in another recent video, I might do a pop-up on the screen, where they're charging more money, they're uplifting their processes. You can't just get by doing the same things you're doing before, right? They might be having the same level of controls and reviews over their process, over the manufacturing, over the printing of cards that they did before, but now because they're charging this amount of money, these kinds of things are unacceptable. So it's a bit crazy. I just wanted to bring that front of mind for you. Pretty cool if you're the person that hit the 3 KABOOMs, because that's freaking awesome. But for the other people that would be buying cases that would have had these otherwise, it's a bit disappointing, and these manufacturers need to do better. What's interesting with this is I've touched on recently, I think we're probably going to see more of this crap from Panini, right? Because they've lost their license. There's rumors around Fanatics purchasing Panini, but from Panini's perspective, that doesn't occur. They're just going to print things to death, right? They're going to just basically try and reduce as many costs as possible whilst printing as many cards as possible. You might start seeing more things like this because from their perspective, as soon as they lose a license, they don't care what state the market is in. That's Fanatics' problem, right? So that's sort of like a watch this space. Let me know your thoughts on this as well. I don't like these kinds of errors from the graders, from the manufacturers, from the card printers, things like that, when the amount of money that's in the hobby still exists, right? Because you don't expect to see these keep happening. It's very disappointing. Now, the next point we'll go to something I spoke about last week as well, with the number of parallels. And the reason why I'm flagging this again is because Sports Card Investor says something a little bit funny. So from a 2021 Prizm NFL, which I think released today or yesterday, there was 43 parallels. I don't think this is applicable to every player. It's applicable to some. If it's every player, it's a bit crazy. 43 parallels. That's mental. And I touched on this in a recent video as well. It's like, as a collector, right, if you want to invest or collect a certain player and you want to get a gold shimmer as an example, and or some other card numbered to a low number, right? And there's 43 parallels this year. And every year they add more parallels, which means you get not only number out of 10s, you get out of 9s, out of 8s, blah, 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 blah. Every year, just more. After 10, 15-year career of a specific player, how many parallels are they going to have in the modern age, right? The reason why parallels from the past and autos and things like that are so valuable is because the print runs were a lot smaller. The hits were a lot smaller. There was less parallels, right? And not many people collected cards the way they do now. So when it came to 15, 20 years later, when the valuable cards became valuable, it's because so few of them remain, right? When you're seeing stuff like this, where everybody's a collector these days, everybody's putting things in one touches, everybody's sending it off to grading, it's like, what's the market going to look like moving forward? Too many parallels. It's a pain in the ass to try to be a set collector, right? It's almost impossible. I don't like it. And the fact they keep doing more is absolutely mental. But the reason why I flag this is because in Sports Card Investor's recent video, and this is going to be the last point that I make today, I don't want to maybe touch on this a little bit further. They made a few interesting comments that I think is a bit crazy, right? I'll get on that in a sec, right? So to give you some context, my recent video on the influencers, which you can see down below in the recent vid little window, you can see the thumbnail there. I'll put a link down in the description below. I spoke about how you as a collector, as an investor, need to make up your own opinions when it comes to buying cards or PCing or collecting certain things, right? Because what often happens, people will just follow what people like sports card investors say, blindly follow that, thinking he's an expert, thinking he's a nice guy. He might be each of those things, right? I'm just using him as an example. And then when the market tanks or that card falls in the ass, you as a person will like, crap, I've just lost all this money, right? But then also there's points around certain influencers, I say rabbities again, like I did in the last video, that are sort of manipulating you as a viewer to go and buy certain services, go and use certain services, use certain grading companies, blah, 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 amongst other examples, to sort of line their own pockets, right? So you need to keep that in mind when you're trying to watch these videos and make these business decisions or investment decisions or collecting decisions. You need to take them with a grain of salt, right? You need to do that for yourself. So I'm not going to use this guy as that example, but it does happen, right? And there's a few people like Mark's Cards in the past, Backyard Breaks, BBCE, a few others you can see down below, Mealy Pop, so on and so forth, where they're talking about doing things, and just because you like the way they present themselves on a camera, you might be a fan of them, right? Because you see these videos, these vlogs, Mojo Sports, Roth Cards, etc., etc. You might really like these guys from what you see on a camera. You also need to keep in mind that off the camera, they could be a completely different person. The person they're presenting to you in that camera could be a character, right? You don't know what they're like in real life, so you don't know what ulterior motives they have. And I'm just putting everyone's name out there now. I'm not calling anyone out specifically. Those are just some of the prime examples of famous influencers at the moment in the card hobby. So the reason why I gave you that context, and it's a bit funny with this video now from Sports Card Investor, because he's often one that is called out with regards to manipulation, right? He's often said, well, he's been shown to maybe not be super experienced with regards to collecting cards, right? So many of his plays have turned out to be quite poor, and he's lost a lot of money. And kudos to him for still, you know, talking about those kinds of things, right? Because he's not somebody that's trying to hide that information. So that's at least a positive for him. But he also does similar things with his Market Movers app and things like that. So people don't like him for that reason, and they don't think he's genuine and blah, blah, blah. And I've said blah, blah, blah a lot in this video, but I do apologize, but you get the idea, right? A lot of people sort of are turned off on him for those reasons, and I'll leave that each up to their own. I'm not going to sway you either way on my opinion on that. But why I'm calling this out is because it's really funny that, you know, he has those questions against him, and then he goes ahead and makes a video like today where he talks about hating sticker autos, right? And then what these three guys do at the table now is what I've just shown you with all those parallels, saying for something like Prizm, you've got too many sticker autos. You know what? Nobody likes sticker autos. Get rid of the sticker autos. Just make more parallels. And it's like from my perspective, I'm like, okay, are you saying that because you want to secretly go back and buy sticker autos? You want to go buy autos, and you want people to invest in parallels that are so overly printed? And the common knowledge within the hobby is that parallels are so overprinted. There's so many of them. So why are you saying the opposite now? Why are you saying we want more? You can see down here in the title, give us rare parallels. And I found this talk a little bit funny because, and you should watch it. It goes for like the first 5 minutes of this video. I don't know if they were just saying it to try and create content, because it seemed like an infomercial, right? They seemed like these guys were trying to sell us something, is how I took it. And they even mentioned a few things like, you know, I've got some sticker autos in the past and I've hated them so much, I've actually thought about peeling the sticker auto off because then I can keep the card and the card looks cool. I was like, who thinks like that? It does not make sense, right? And let me just jump back to my full camera. But it's just a bit strange how they're making those kinds of comments, right? And yes, sticker autos are really crap, because ideally we'd prefer to have on-card autos, but sticker autos is what keeping the product affordable right now. And I can understand the logic maybe removing autos from certain products and just having it parallel focus, which is okay, but I like sticker autos. A lot of people do. I'm sorry, I like autos. A lot of people do like autos. Sticker autos are annoying, but they help keep the product affordable because they help Panini and these other manufacturers get a hold of basically players on a more readily available process, right? And that's how this didn't make sense, but you get what I'm trying to say. So it's a bit strange how, I guess the moral of the story here is this guy constantly gets called out for trying to manipulate people and sort of sway people into doing things with an ulterior motive, and then he goes ahead and says something like this, right? When the market is so focused right now on talking about how overly printed parallels are, and this guy comes out and makes a video and saying, give us more parallels, get rid of autos. Why is he saying that? Is he saying that because he wants to buy the autos for himself, or is he saying that because he's just trying to create content and he's trying to create a few talking points? Which, if you go back and watch the video, it's probably the latter. The way these guys were talking about hating on autos and just wanting parallels and wanting to take stickers off and just not even wanting to collect those kinds of cards. It just seemed a bit generic, and they didn't seem like they were genuinely talking, right? It seemed like a bit of an infomercial. So let me know what your thoughts are on that if you had seen Sports Card Investor's video, because like I said, it's a bit strange. So I just find it a bit odd to make those kinds of comments when you're constantly called out for manipulating the market and taking advantage of people and things like that. I don't know if he is. I don't know if he isn't. I think sometimes he says things that maybe he shouldn't, and he's not aware of the platform he has. But at the same time, he comes out and speaks about his L's quite often, which I like because it shows that he's learning and things like that. So it's a bit strange. I don't get it personally. I can't see how anyone in their right mind would want to see more parallels in more products, right? It just does not make sense to me. There is far too many. They need to cut back. They need to get back to what they were doing, 4 or 5 years ago, where parallels were quite low. Get back. Like, if you're going to question these manufacturers for anything, you need to question them for using non-match worn materials. You need to question them for not using non-player worn materials, right? You need to question them with how they're putting sticker autos in things like National Treasures, in Flawless, which I believe has also happened once or twice in the past. It's just absolutely mental. I don't get it. Please share your thoughts down on any of these in the comments below. It's crazy, right? I just speak about influencers, coming up with weird opinions to possibly line their own pockets, which is what the general consensus is amongst the hobby with people that comment on Instagram and things like that, and how it's just mind-boggling to me that people still do those kinds of things, and then you got someone else coming out and making this kind of comment a day later. It's just a bit crazy. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Thanks for watching. I've got a pretty cool video coming out next week, so keep an eye out for that. And yeah, drop me a like, give me a follow. I've said that a couple of times now. You don't have to if you don't want to. Please leave a comment because I love chatting with you guys. And thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.